you again.
Thank you.
I'll avoid this to be a lot of questions being asked you, but more of a story like I told you when we talked about this. Apart from my partner, Kola, the other person I've traveled, as in literally traveled on a plane journey with, the most professional is you, right?
Yeah, right.
So we had a lot of conversations at lounges, at hot places in Cairo or Dubai or whatever.
Or Rwanda.
Or Rwanda, talking about different things. So I'm going to divide this conversation and to guide you talking about it into three parts. The first one is the transitioning from being a coder to a company builder, from moving to code to building a company. The second one is talent and African pipeline of talent. And the third one is, of course, about capital formation, which a lot of people want to talk about here or learn about, capital formation and exit and the future, liquidity. Yeah. So let's start with the code. I know you wrote the first code for Moniepoint. Or you and Felix or something.
Yeah.
And you got people together in your flat in 2004, trying to mimic Alibaba founder. So tell us the transition, not about the origin story. A lot of people can hear that from podcasts. But what has been the transition for you, and what has changed in you personally from being the guy that write the code and work with developers, now working with a lot of other professionals?
Yeah, thanks, Dotun. Thank you very much. And thanks, everyone, for having me here. I think this is a good question. When on my way today, I don't know if anybody has tried this before. If you use ChatGPT a lot, tell ChatGPT to describe you to yourself. I don't know if anybody has done that. And you see what it tells you about yourself. Sometimes it's revealing. It's sometimes patronizing. But maybe the new versions now are kind of more balanced. And funny enough, what you just said is one of the things he said. It says that I switch between asking questions on low-level items like disk utilization, LRU caches, and policy and strategy. And it was not like that's kind of something that's specific about me. I was like, no, dude, you're just patronizing me. Like, is this not what most high-functioning people do? And he said, no, it's not true, but I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it because a sign of good leaders will be ability to shift from big picture, helicopter thinking, all the way to minute details. And coding is like obsessing over minute details. You're literally giving instructions to a computer, little by little, on how to do things. And coding is actually quite interesting for anybody that is a coder here. It's the reason why you just get paid for joy, for bliss. But the level of accomplishment that you can get done is restricted to the world of machines. If you want to accomplish more, you need to think on a higher abstraction level. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just simply means that if what you want to do is to achieve more, not just on machines, you want to think on a higher abstraction. And that was my reasoning all along. I loved coding, but I felt like I wanted to achieve and make more impact on a higher level. And that's one of the reasons why I began to move on a higher level. And how has the transition been? I don't think I've transitioned. I am still trying low level. I still join tech calls. There are sometimes that we have glitches, and I join those calls. And yesterday I was still having a conversation with Felix, my co-founder, and we're obsessing about disk utilization and memory caching. Felix sent me a message just now that I think that thing we did might be working. Overall latency increased by 10 milliseconds. Whether it solves our problem is now a different question. This was 3:48 p.m.
So one thing I know about you is that, I mean, when we work together, you kind of struggle with investor conversations and meetings, and you leave that to someone like me. But you can spend 6 hours on product meetings. And Ross now. And you spend 6 hours on product meetings.
Yes.
But you can't be doing that now because you have all the regulators, blah, blah. What has that changed? And also, you like your solitude as well. You like to just retrieve to your own shelf and not go out and socialize.
Yeah.
Now you're leading 1,000+ people.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
a lot of engagement. You have investors talking to you now.
Absolutely.
What has changed? What have you given up?
So I think I've realized, like, if you want to, at the scale that Moniepoint is right now, you, beyond maybe the low level, you need to handle the big stuff also. You need to handle the people, you need to handle the policy makers, you need to handle the state. It's a systemic organization. I told my wife yesterday that, listen, babe, I think I will need to start attending people's weddings now. And I'm going to be attending one on the 28th. Don't tell me whose. And I think I've come to the realization that at this kind of scale that Moniepoint is, if you don't tell your story, it will be told for you. And most times, such socializations on both policy and state level is about storytelling. You want to ensure that when anybody mentions your company or your name, they can put a face to it and they can have a good impression about you. Otherwise, it will be filled with something that you don't want. So that has certainly changed. I still don't like investor calls. I mean, the major reason is simply because investors want money, right? So let's go and do the work to return the money back to them. But it's also because of my nature, to be honest. I think I'm just an introvert. So it's easier to. Small talk is not something that I love, but I generally love deeper conversations like this one. So when it's kind of boring talk about things that you already know about the business all the time, it's kind of quick, pretty enervating. But this is something I do quite a bit now. I don't have a choice. So if I want to return the capital to the investors, I have to play the game.
Yeah.
So here I am on this stage.
Now, let's quickly shift to talent. About 4 years ago, 5 years ago, almost everybody at Moniepoint, you can fit everybody into the living room of that office in Lekki, where everybody was there, and everybody is Nigerian. Now you have team in Pakistan, huge team in London, global talent everywhere. The question I want to ask you is, how do you balance between the local loyalty and the need for global expertise and the dynamics that has changed in your organization when you have to hire very experienced global expertise?
I think we always go for the right talent, regardless of the nationality. The right talent sometimes includes nationality as a consideration, however. The reason is because you need, for example, in product management now, for you to be a good product manager, you need to know your customers, right? And if your customers are Nigerian, then a Nigerian might do better. I said might because not necessarily so. But Moniepoint's philosophy is best talent. And it turns out that Nigeria is thin on certain talent types. We all know jackpot that is happening. Let me start with engineering. We don't have too many senior engineers around, so we just look outside. Data analytics and data science is also another thing that Nigeria is really thin on. We don't have too strong pipelines. Marketing, especially performance marketing and growth, is also something that is not deep in Nigeria. Investor relations, for example, and along the way, you will see a lot of, non-Nigerians that love the Nigerian story, the African story. They have affinity for the continent. Because also beyond even just working in a great organization and joining a thriving company, it's also a very unique opportunity for impact. And we have seen a lot of professionals, come in that category. For example, my head of investor relations, I don't know if Ross is here. Ross? Yes. Ross used to work for British International Investment, where he led investments into many companies in Africa, and that's where we met. Like, you know the story, right?
Yeah.
So for others, I don't know. And, it's just, apart from the fact that I'm sure Ross can tolerate working with me. It's just a good story, and it's also quite challenging. So transitioning from pure local firm to being a global organization is just what it is if you want to go after top talents and you are not competing on a local domain. The people we're competing with are not necessarily pure locals also. So, yeah.
But what blind spot do you recognize in yourself? And you can also recognize in other leaders emerging from Nigeria who had only worked in Nigeria that they need to recognize in managing global talents. So actually managing multicultural talents.
Blind spots that I can see in others. I think we don't fall for the hype that you just want to hire non-Nigerians. I think that should be taken for granted, but unfortunately, people certainly fall for it. I'm not keenly aware that Moniepoint is a global organization. I'm not keenly aware. It's what we had to do because we had to do it. When we're hiring our COO, I was struggling. Our CEO is like maybe, a better description would be like maybe third co-founder. And you want to have a very, very high bar for someone like that. And you're also looking for someone who has known what international good looks like. And by the time you start narrowing down, at that level, whoever will want to join your organization with such superior experience, you will want to make sure that they can bet their life and trust that organization, which means they need good references. So that pretty much narrows the whole talent pool down to a few people that will include a lot of non-Nigerians. So for us, I'm not keenly aware that Moniepoint is. We're simply looking for great talent.
But quick one, what unique challenges do you face now that you have multicultural team compared to what you used to have before?
I think a controversial one is a pay divide. And the pay divide is not because of the international talent. The pay divide is because of the geographies. Because you need to pay people based on where they work or live. People that work and live out of the UK have a different salary scale from India and have a different salary scale from. But because you can have a higher density of international talent out of the UK, for example, it might seem as if like there's pay discrimination, which simply isn't it. Because even Nigerians in the UK earn on a similar scale. So that's something that, that's an example.
I'll go to the last segment, which is capital. And by the way, I want to give room for question. So if you can prepare your question, that would be great. About capital valuation and the long game. I know the part of that journey was privileged to witness that journey of you from raising the first capital to up to now. What has been the biggest lesson for you from seed, those calls at 1 a.m. at night? I was telling someone recently, debating term sheets till 1 a.m. at night. Seed to growth to unicorn you have now. What are key lessons that you can draw out from that journey?
So, I think, despite what people say about Moniepoint now, raising capital for us was actually quite difficult. I don't know if you guys would believe it, but it was really, really difficult. So, kudos to the rest of you out there. It's not easy right now. And like Dotun was saying in the just the fact that you are able to raise right now is like a badge of honor. Mm-hmm. And we had a couple of challenges. One of the challenges is that we were raising at a time when Nigeria had the worst macros ever. We were raising also when our business, people were believing it to be a cash business. Because, we have exposure to agents, and people think of it as we are selling cash rather than processing transactions. And, my people here, Ross, we all struggled around that. And some of the key lessons that came out, and one thing that came out every time are people that bet on us were people that understood Nigeria very well.
Yes.
And some of them were Nigerians, some of them were not Nigerian, but had exposure to Nigeria. So a lesson is you will need anything that you want to raise for, you need to look for investors that actually understand both the geography and the domain. If you are raising capital next time, as you are raising your capital, try and filter your list to those people because you do less work. I don't think, in my own experience, I did not experience people blindly cutting checks. Maybe some people did it, but most people that will cut you checks are savvy and they will ask deep questions. So you have an easier job talking to people that understand your geography and your domain. That's one. Another big lesson that we learned also, that I learned also, is that raising funds, just like sales, there's the relationship part and there's the hard part. By the hard part, I mean simply pure returns. Rather than focusing heavily on building relationships with investors, which helps, by the way, because people will invest in you when they know and like you. Another path is to touch their greed, because everybody wants a return. And if you focus on building a company that people have a high conviction of getting a return on, and the return is not just equity appreciation, but liquidity at the end of the day, you have a way higher chance of raising your capital. So you need to make sure that your story is not just your story and your numbers are very crisp of how people can see from money in to money out. So, and that certainly helps a lot. So for everybody that is raising capital, if you are forced to make a choice between building a great company with great numbers and telling a story, and you have limited bandwidth, build your numbers first, then tell your stories after. You need both, however. And the third thing is that, another thing is, do not underestimate the story premium. There's a story premium. Despite all these things I'm saying about numbers, there's a story premium. And the story premium is, sometimes I think, this might be controversial, but sometimes I feel like okay, I won't say it, but there's a certain...
Now you have to say it.
Sometimes I feel like if Moniepoint founding team had a different composition, you can feel whatever the composition is, and we have similar traction, will probably be worth... Okay, so maybe people know what I'm talking about. What's way higher, and it's a story premium. There's a certain kind of like stereotype that people expect to be founders. And if, for example, let's say that I am not Nigerian and I came into Nigeria to do this, I am an adventurous entrepreneur solving problems and not a local founder who simply saw an opportunity.
And from Harvard.
Internet.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if I am a founder, even if I was based in Nigeria, but didn't go to rickety OAU, and maybe...
Of course, OAU is rickety, but if you got to Unilag,
OAU is not rickety.
Unilag would have been made a good difference.
But you get the drift, and maybe... So, but the point here is that, and of course all that is changing now because of the improved profile and all that. But the point is that there's a story premium. There's a premium to making people understand and fitting a stereotype that they truly understand, and using that stereotype can give you a big premium on top of fundraising. So those are some 3 big lessons.
I want to give you a question, but I have one last one for you, which ties into everything. What's your thought on exit at the end? I know Moniepoint has made money for quite a number of people in this room. I say this, there are 2 types of investors in Africa today. The ones that invest in Moniepoint, the ones that wish to invest in Moniepoint. These are the 2 types of investors now. Now, what is the end outcome for you?
I need to generate more exits for you guys. I'm proud of exits. I think it's the ultimate mark of being grateful for people investing in you. And I think every founder should think like the day you've taken somebody's funds, you have a responsibility to return it. So my view on exit is that our latest investors have like an expectation of what it needs to do. On a minimum, we need to meet and exceed that. And exits, unfortunately, in Nigeria and Africa, the routes are not as fat as what it would look like if you are based on Europe or in the US. Just a couple of routes that we all have: going public, getting acquired, and one unsexy option of just simply paying dividend or doing, dividend recaps. But the first two options are very open options. In fact, the first one is the main open option. Which
going
is,
public?
Yes.
That's the goal.
Not necessarily Moniepoint. I'm just stating all the options that are available. Because, like I've always said, public market is always there for you if you're ready to do it. But what are the different choices that we have? It's going to be Nigeria, it's going to be London, it's going to be NASDAQ, it's going to be, recently somebody did GSC, that's Johannesburg, Optasia, so which is good also.
Yeah.
And it could also be Middle East. So those are good options. For you to get to that stage, you need to get to a certain level of revenue, profitability, and risk diversification, which is another big elephant in the room. Geographic risk diversification. But going public is always an option. Of course, occasionally you find an opportunistic acquisition offer. Yeah, if you're happy to take that, you take that. But then again, building a company that's in the mid to long term can pay dividends while it's not making investors, giddy, it's not bad to have something in your pocket as an investor at the end of the day. So my view is to actually make sure that we generate the returns for the investors, which will also help the ecosystem. Yeah. It will help the ecosystem. It will help every other upcoming company, every other funds, that it's not just paper money, it can actually turn to cash. So.
Before I open it for question, I just want to tie it back to what I started at the beginning. You got a bunch of guys and a lady into your flat in 2004. You gave them the promise about, come join me and we're going to build this business and all of you are going to be rich. How's that coming along now with those guys?
I think they're good. I think they're good. So I think the story there was, look, listen, guys, come, I'll give you 1%. The company will be $100 million. All of you will have $1 million. You all will be millionaires. That was the pitch to them, right? So, in my mind too, I thought it was going to be $100 million. So,
but it's more than that now.
Sort of.
Yes.
So I think most of those promises have been met.
Yeah.
There was one guy that trended on Twitter once, Julian Duru. Yeah. So it was one of us.
Yeah.
I'm actually also one proud thing I also have is that most of them are still with us.
Yes.
Most of them, like over 90% of them, are still with Moniepoint. And one thing that makes me also keep pushing is I don't think of what I will get sometimes. I think of what they will get, because I know that if they get this amount, I will certainly get way more than that. And it's because if sometimes you look at your own equity stake and look at, okay, this is enough for me. In reality, it is. But is it enough for them? And let's look for something enough for them, which will certainly make it enough for me. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm going to give room for a couple of questions. I know there's some burning questions. I can see one hand jump up. I see another hand, but I want a lady, yes. So one and one. I might come to you if there's enough time, but I'll start with the lady.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Omolara, and I'm the co-founder at Middleman. We are building the infrastructure to power China-Africa trade. what that looks like is an AI sourcing tool to bridge the language barrier, procurement agent in China to bridge the trust barrier, as well as payment and shipping. I've got my pitch deck behind my shirt in case you want to see it. And now to my question. Okay. My question is to Tosin, the investor, not Tosin, the founder, right? Would you say you are more critical of founders today because you can see through BS? Or would you say you are less critical because you understand just how hard the journey is?
Both. Yeah, both can be true, yeah. Lots of BS around, and I also have empathy for them. For us, actually. Lots of BS around, to be honest, like you rightly said, like some people think, I think it's better now. Like 2-3 years ago, like everybody was forming a company.
Yeah.
But when funding is drying up, the real guys are staying back. So lots of BS around. But I'm also very, very empathetic. And I think one thing that is not said enough is that there's a survivorship bias in storytelling. The people that hear their stories are the ones that survived. But beyond that, there have been thousands of people who did not survive. And honestly, the journey has a bigger luck component than we acknowledge enough. I feel like I've always tried to acknowledge this. And one thing that you notice is that in Nigeria, there's a timing component to the thriving startups. Almost all of them were somewhere formed between 2015 and 2018. Almost all of them for fintech. And the sweet spot of that time was, one, the central bank regulations were relaxed. So that's one. Two, there was a critical mass of customers that had banking services, but the quality of the banking service was not good. So customers needed enough. Three, Nigeria already had internet penetration at a good level and the youth penetration. Four, COVID happened. Nobody controlled COVID, but that now brought in influx of investor money. And five, cashless happened. So all these things I said is not based on anybody's genius or execution. No. It's all timing and it's all chance. And I think we should all recognize and always appreciate that. So the part size on the founders is, which I empathize with, will be the sleepless nights. You can easily see me here, sitting here, talking about things. This guy must have a wonderful life. I've slept only 3 or 4 hours in the last 24 hours. I'll probably be on the flight to Abuja again tomorrow morning, come back Lagos tomorrow. It's not glamorous, trust me. I don't think, maybe life as a whole is not glamorous, but it's not as easy as we all think. So I have full empathy.
Thank you.
Kelechi Uchenna here, CEO at Nigenius. Tosin, I have 2 questions.
No, 1 question, please.
Oh, one question, okay.
Thank you.
The company was called Team Apt before, and I believe from my own research, the Moniepoint was a product. So what was that moment and that idea that led to the company being called Moniepoint and dropping the Team Apt name?
Yeah. Thank you.
So the company was called Team Apt because I didn't find a better name. That was the reason. In fact, when I left InterSwitch, it's not like I was clear what we wanted to do. I just told Felix, guy, let's go and do something. There was this opportunity. In 2004, we're building hardware. We're doing projects for banks. So I would just call it Team X. But when we went to CAC, there was nothing called Team X. They said, it's taken. What's the next one? Team Apt. Serious, that's the story. So Team Apt was actually building software for banks. Was striving 50 people, maybe, I can't remember the number of contracts we had there, but almost 20 banks we were building solutions for. And when we decided to pivot in 2018, we did an internal competition for the name of the product. That's the agency banking product then. And the name that won was Moniepoint. I think it was my EA then that selected that name. She's a pilot now. And by the time the business began to start, and you were looking at numbers month on month, and the name Moniepoint itself was now, and we were struggling with the name Team Apt.
Yeah.
We struggled with that name.
Yeah, I had issues with that
it was crazy. Like, what's Team Apt? Like, it doesn't explain anything. So by the time the product itself began to grow, it was just a simple decision to say, I think Dotun, you were with us then, right? Say, guys, let's change this name. And so that's how we pivoted the name. It's a way better name. Though it's still Moniepoint. Still three syllables. And they say it should be 2 syllables, right? But that's fine. All right.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Tosin Eniolorunda from Moniepoint.
Thank you.